Good evening and welcome to your Meet the Candidates event. Our current constable, Untitled, he's the only person with his hat in the ring for this upcoming election, and he's hoping to get your vote rather than the none of the above category, because otherwise that triggers a by-election and yeah, he wants in. So in a bid to convince him, he's asked me to sit down with you all, have a little chat, ask some questions, get to know him better, get to know your hopes for the parish going forward for the next 4 years, should you be elected. We're going to start off tonight with a little bit of a sort of an interview, me asking questions, finding out a little bit about your plans. Then we'll move to the floor, and Martin's going to be roaming with our microphone again, I believe. So just raise your hand if you've got a question when we get to that section, and we'll pop around and hopefully manage to cover everything. Yeah, okay. I think when we get to the questions, we'll try and take topics at a time, if that makes sense. So we're not sort of flitting around all over the place. If someone first asks a question on, say, the hospital, then if anyone else has got a question on the hospital, then we'll follow through with more of those and then sort of change topics so we're not confusing ourselves too much, and hopefully we'll be able to answer everything. Oh, sorry. Oh, there we go. Is that better? Sorry. I was just saying, when we get to the questions, we'll tackle them in topics. So if anybody's got a question on the hospital, then we'll take all questions on the hospital. If anyone's got a question on the economy, then we'll take all questions on that sort of a thing. Going forward. Okay, so let's get started. Firstly, so Andy J, you first came to the role of constable in April 2021, so just over a year ago. You were elected unopposed at the time again then, even though at the time I think you said you were quite keen for a contest. You're also unopposed this time. Why hold a hustings?
Well, good evening, Katie, and good evening, everyone. Well, I think it's really important that the public get the opportunity to meet the candidates. I actually stood in an election in 2007 and had a one-man hustings back then when I stood for procureur, so that was some 15 years ago, so here I am again. You know, I'm out knocking on everybody's door, but people are out at work. You know, my contact details are there for everyone, but I thought I'd give the opportunity to people to come in and ask any questions they want, and also hear a little bit about me. So I think the idea of the first 20 minutes or so is just to do that, just a little introduction, and then throw it open to the floor. Fantastic.
All right then. So 1 year in office so far. You'd like another 4 years. How's it been so far?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing. I wouldn't say I enjoy everything. You know, there are some hard bits, but it's an absolute privilege to lead what I think is the best parish on the island and the best community. So the absolute privilege. It's hard work. The one thing that surprised me is actually the amount of reading that I've got to do, or we've got to do, or we should do as states members. The volume of paperwork that comes through your inbox is amazing. But yeah, in general, it's fantastic. You know, you spend time in the States, which is can be long at times and not always productive. But when you're in the parish hall here and when you're helping the community, that's the best time for me.
Fantastic. And this, as you mentioned, it's not the first time you've held office in St John. You were procureur previously. You've been involved in the parish really for on and off 20 years plus. Tell us a little bit about your role in the community here and the work that you've done.
Well, we were very lucky. I was involved with the football club many years ago. And as soon as I retired from the football club, the then constable, Carl Hinno, said, "You need to join the honorary police, Andy." So I didn't have much of a break between one job and the next. We were fortunate to get a first-time buyer property as a family, and I thought it was important that we put something back into the community. So for me, I've done 6 years in the honorary police, some good learning there actually for me. And I'm delighted that our honorary police are now up to full strength. We've had 8 new officers sworn in since I was elected. We've got some 11 people on a waiting list to join the honorary police. I've stopped asking people, so you know, it's a terrific community. I then spent time as a roads inspector as my career was getting busier. And then I spent a bit of time with the emergency planning team. I then as I said earlier, stood for procureur and was a procureur for around 8 years. So yeah, it was a I was elected 4 times into that position, and that was really good learning for this job, because I had learnt a lot about the administration. You know, every day is a school day, so we're learning all the time in the role. So I've learnt a lot in the last 12 months. But the time I spent in the municipality in different roles has taught me an awful lot. I was also the deputy chair, and then the chair of the first committee rural for the 2011 Bridging Island Plan. So that was another role that I held for around 3 years.
And professionally, you spent most of your career at Jersey Post. Tell us about that.
Well, that is going back. So I did almost 38 years with Jersey Post. I started as a telegram boy when I was 16, and I retired as the Director of Operations. When I retired as Director of Operations, I carried on chairing their freight company, which I'd identified, led the acquisition team, led the merger team, so they asked me to carry on as the chairman of the freight company in Portsmouth. So I did that for 12 months after I retired. More recently, my kind of career went full circle, because the last job I was doing before I was elected as a constable, I was consulting with a logistics business that got sold to Jersey Post. So I could see the benefits for both parties, for both Jersey Post and the logistics company in a kind of takeover. So that was one of the last things I did. So yeah.
And how would you say that that work sort of has helped shape your charitable activities as well? Because I know really involved with the Island Games as well when they were held in Jersey 2015.
Yeah, well, I think you know, I as a young guy, I was actually a trade union representative, and that was some of the best learning in my career, actually, about people. So that was interesting. I think it's in terms of values. You know, you need to give back to the community, whatever that is. The Island Games was an amazing experience. It's 2015, so it's a long time ago, and it was really, really hard work, but it was really enjoyable work. You know, we had a great group of people. If people remember the games makers, they were driving minibuses for me from 6 o'clock in the morning till midnight, and yeah, it was an incredible experience. I dread to think how many hours I worked that week, but it really was good. And more recently, I was helping the guy that's doing the transport for the Guernsey Games, because he's a friend of mine, as it happens. And so I'm hoping to go to Guernsey to watch the Island Games. And I did have the opportunity to watch in Allend many years ago, because Jersey Post were the sponsor of Team Jersey and are still the sponsor today.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, back to the parish more. You say in your manifesto your focus is the parish. I suppose, yeah, how would you, because we've changed this year, haven't we? The electoral districts have changed. The role of constable for the parish has stayed the same, but the districts have changed. We're now Trinity, St Lawrence and St John. How do you see the role of constable changing in that new world?
Well, I think this is a pivotal term for the role of constable in the States. I really think the constables have really got to put their shoulder to the wheel if the constables are going to be in the States after 2026. So I'm really keen to get the constables working harder together, contributing more to the States debates. It's pivotal. The constable's role has always been important. I had many people ask me to stand for deputy in the district. And I said, you know, I've nailed my colours to the mast. I want to be constable. I want to lead this parish, and that's what I want to do. But I think the role of constable is going to be more important than it's ever been as the voice of the parish, particularly those parishes that are in districts, multi-parish districts. And I've been doing some work trying to get constables to work together, but parishes to work together. So perhaps we'll talk about the climate group later on, but it's vital for the constables to actually play a bigger role and to take their fair share of responsibility in the state as well as within their parishes.
And it was a long time coming, these changes. I think the Electoral Commission recommended them back in 2013. Is this, say you were in the States when this decision was made, the districts, is this something you agree with? Or if not, what would you change? What would you like to see?
Well, I can actually tell you that I managed the campaign for option B, and I think it's a travesty that it's taken the state so long to implement the result of a referendum. Now we can argue the whys and wherefores of the outputs. I think my preferred option going forward would be for 12 constables and for 36 people to be elected on an island-wide mandate. Now, I managed a campaign in the Guernsey election, the All-Ireland election, and I was really concerned about that election before it happened. But I have to tell you, it worked incredibly well. Now, talking to my friends in Guernsey, they tell me that they're missing out on the local representation, and that's why I think keeping the 12 constables and having 36 people elected island-wide would be the best way forward going ahead. But the people, when they were asked in the referendum, particularly St John's people, voted, as many people voted for option B as A and C combined. So I took the view when we were asked to implement this, so the vote was taken in 2020 before I was elected, but we did vote on it last year, and I took the view that I should vote for what the parishioners of St John's asked for at the time.
Okay. Is there something about Jersey Estates Assembly, because I know there's a lot of frustration at the moment. Is there something about the Estates Assembly as it stands that you particularly admire? And also, where do you think it falls short?
How long have we got? Yeah. Admired, you know, you sit in that assembly and you think of the history, you think of the decisions that have been taken in that very room over, you know, many, many years, and it's an absolute honour to take a seat in that assembly. It can be frustrating. I think limiting the speeches to 15 minutes is probably a good thing, although I did ask for an extension in the Samurai Ward debate because I had a lot to say on that subject and still got a lot to say on that subject and health in general. But I think in terms of what can we do, I think we need to try and work more collaboratively, and that's nothing to do with the Assembly, it's about the people that are in there at any one time. And you know, I keep telling people, vote for the proposition based on what's best for the island and islanders. Don't worry about who brings a proposition, just do what's best for the island and islanders. And I think we would all do well to remember that going forward. So collaboration is what we need to do far more of.
Okay. Here in the parish, we recently, I mean, you coming into the post, it was due to a bit of a checkered history with the role of constable in the parish. How important do you think it is to rebuild the level of trust between the role and the parishioners? And how do you go about doing that?
Well, you know, we're looking forward, I'm looking forward, and I said in the media that I wanted people talking about St John for the right reasons, and I'd like to think we're making progress. You know, we could send a big statement out to the island on the 22nd of June by getting a high turnout in St John's in this next election. So, you know, I want people to encourage their neighbours, their family, their friends, their colleagues to go out and vote. Doesn't matter who they vote for. Yes, I'd like them to vote for me, but the important thing is for St John's to get back to the level of turnout we've experienced in the past. You know, I was involved in a campaign in 1994 where we had over 80% turnout in a by-election. Over 80%. We only dream of those numbers at the moment. We need to get people engaged. We need to listen to people. I've tried very hard to engage with the community. I've set up social media, even TikTok. Don't ask me how it works, but I've set up TikTok. You know, trying to engage with all the community, doing the traditional methods as well. But you know, when we have a parish assembly here, we've got the numbers up to around 45, 50 from around 12. So we are making progress. And one of the things I've been doing is having a Q&A at the end of those assemblies and inviting the deputy to join me on the stage so people can ask any question they like. We don't always know the answers, or sometimes the answers aren't what people want to hear, but by doing those kind of things, I'm here every Wednesday between 5 and 7 with an open door, and I see lots of parishioners come in during those Wednesday evening sessions. So I think it's about engaging with the community, listening. We've got a lot of volunteers in our parish, and you know, we need to get more people involved in the community. So yes, there's lots of work to do, but I do think we are moving in the right direction. Yes, I've made mistakes, but as long as you learn from mistakes, then I always think it's okay.
All right then. So if we sort of shift more towards the issues, I suppose, that are affecting islanders at the moment, one of, I think it was the first and the last question at the Deputies Hustings was based on housing. You've already mentioned you were lucky enough to benefit from a first-time buyer's home when you moved to the area. The Bridging Island Plan, which was voted for just before the States Assembly broke, saw a few sites in the parish be rezoned. We have a question from the audience on this as well, but can I just, I mean, do you think that these few developments will be enough? We've got one at Sion, one just here, and then over there and over there. Do you think that'll be enough?
Well, I think St John's has got a great history in terms of providing homes for both young families and senior citizens, but we've got 202 youngsters on the list for affordable homes, 202 people. We've got over 60 people looking for sheltered accommodation to downsize, and we haven't advertised. We haven't advertised. I'm sure if we advertised, we'd see those numbers go up significantly. Clearly, I came into the process quite a long way through. The Committee Rural, which is a body of parishioners elected at an assembly, and in the summer will be coming back to an assembly because the majority of their terms of office have finished. So we'll be, some people will be asking to be re-elected, and we'll be looking for new people to join that body. We went out to consultation. We delivered, or Jersey Post delivered a leaflet before I was constable to every home in the parish, asking for people's views on a range of subjects. And I think it was over 80% of parishioners said yes to building more properties for affordable homes and sheltered homes. We've communicated in the parish magazine. Every time there's a parish magazine, there's a page or 2 pages on the Committee Rural work and the proposals that were coming forward. We've held open sessions here. When we had the island plan here, we had members of the Committee Rural, and the answers to the questionnaire were, the island plan was down one side of the hall and the Committee Rural were down the other side of the hall. Is it enough? I think it is enough for this Bridging Island plan. You know, we've got to provide homes. You know, going around the parish, I talk to people about families leaving the island. You know, my son, my daughter can't afford to buy a property. We can't afford to retire in Jersey. Everywhere I go, I'm hearing that similar message. Now, some of us are very fortunate to be in properties that we own outright, and we don't need to worry. But there are many, many people, let me tell you, who aren't that lucky. And it's a travesty, you know, when you see youngsters not coming back to the island, when you see families leaving the island leaving families they love because they can't afford to live here. So we've got to do more to help these people. We've got to do more. You know, I had sleepless nights. I can tell you I had sleepless nights, particularly about Zion, because the field at Zion was put forward by the Environment Minister. Now, it's a good field. There's a colony of bats there, so there's environmental reasons not to do it. But in the end, I came down. Every day when I went into my office, I look at this poster I've got on my wall, which is the results from the Committee Rural. 83% of island parishioners wanting to develop more property. So I went with the Minister for Zion. I think we've got an opportunity at Zion to actually create a green heart down there, because people just drive through Zion, and we need to try and make some kind of a centre there where the community can actually meet and enjoy the space. So I think we need to work with the planners on that there. Another challenge we've got is all of the affordable homes that are being provided at the moment are 3-bedroom properties. And you may or may not understand this, but to get a 3-bedroom property, you've got to have a dependent. You've got to have children or somebody that's dependent on you. So there are lots of couples who are wanting to get a house before they start a family, and they're debarred because of the criteria that's set down by the Housing Gateway. And of course, we've got 16 properties being built behind us in the field next to Clodagh Cole, so those will be getting allocated. The parish have got the nomination rights for those properties, but the people have to go through the Housing Gateway. And there was a proposition during the Bridging Island plan where in future developments, parishes will only have 50% nomination rights for properties for affordable homes, but they will retain 100% nomination rights for the sheltered housing. So yeah. We've got to do more, and St John's has got to play its part, you know, and it's a really, really tricky thing because, you know, people don't want houses next to them, but people want somewhere for their children to live. It's really tough, and you know, when I said, you asked me if I enjoyed the role, well, yes, I enjoyed most of the role, but when you've got to press the button, when you've got to make the decision, you're in a job, you've got to make a decision, and it's not always, you know, what you want personally, but it's what the island needs and what the parish needs.
Okay, just on this, because I was handed a question at the start, and it sort of fits in pretty much about here. It says, you've claimed one of your achievements of the rezoning of fields in green fields in St John's for housing, including field J236 on La Rue Cimetière. I can never say that right. Planning Minister John Young stated that the rezoning of greenfields was deeply regrettable and the result of a failure of government policy. Do you still maintain this view despite significant resident opposition? And do you consider it ethical that the field has been rezoned for development by the Greenwood Housing Association, which you're a member of?
So it's a good question. Nobody wants to rezone greenfields. Yeah? Nobody wants to rezone greenfields. But if we don't rezone greenfields, more of our youngsters will leave, and more of our senior members of the community will leave because they can't afford to live here. It's a really tough decision. The rezoning was actually made by the States Assembly. That's who rezoned the field. The development, if it goes forward, will be done by the Greenwood Housing Association, of which I'm a member. The procureurs are members, the rectors are member, and we can have up to 8 members of that housing association. And the idea of the housing association being kept separate from the parish is so that it doesn't become a burden on the parish, and equally that the housing doesn't fund things within the parish. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and I've met with the residents. I've canvassed around that area today, and I've offered to arrange another meeting with the residents. And you know, we need to work together. If we could find an alternative, someone tell me where the alternative is, and let's try and find the alternative. But you know, we've got to try and find solutions. And yeah, do I have any pleasure in rezoning a greenfield? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But when you're elected to make decisions, and you know, you're not elected to be popular. You're elected to look after the community.
Okay. As part of a previous answer, you mentioned about community space and how important that will be at Zion. How do you see that working? Would that be just as part of the new development, or would there be a bigger project in mind?
Yeah, so in recent years there's been planning obligation agreements. So one of the planning obligation agreements for the development at Zion will include community space. And we've got an opportunity to shape that community space. And hopefully, working with the residents in Zion, we can do that and achieve that. You know, there's also the United Reformed Church building that the community, St John's community as a whole, doesn't use very often. And I'm going to look at ways of utilising that building a little bit more. I don't think we need another building at Zion for the community, because there is a community there. But I think we need to utilise a green area where we can actually have community events, etc.
And one of your previous projects, which got biffed back just before the Bridging Island Plan was decided, but now it's in the Bridging Island Plan, isn't it, is the community space in the field next to the parish hall? Yeah,
so I was, I have to say that I haven't always supported the use of the meadow for car parking, but having got elected and having watched school pick up and drop off, it's very evident we've got to do something. So I was happy to take the proposal to the planning committee. It was a tied vote, 2 votes each, and it didn't go ahead. Now, you know, we look at it and we say, well, how can we improve on this? And I was delighted that we had 42 votes in favour when I took it to the State Assembly and no votes against, which I thought was great. What I did is I took the members on a journey. If you start at St Wan's and think about the green space next to the parish hall, and then you go to St Peter's and think of the green space there, you go to St Lawrence, you go to Trinity, you go to St Martin, so you get the picture. I didn't have to go further than that because they were glazing over, but you know, we need to increase the amount of parking. The school needs to take responsibility for its parking. I believe St John's, because I've asked questions in the States, St John's is the only school that has cars parked in an active playground. That is totally, totally wrong. The states of Jersey own a bit of the meadow, they own the pumping station, and we're trying to get the school cars parked in that corner of the meadow. And we will look to give them some of the land along parallel to that, so we only use the corner of the meadow for cars, put a forest school area and a memorial garden here. I don't think we need to move the cenotaph. A petanque pitch. And in return for the land we give the states around the pumping station, I'm looking to acquire the land near the hairdressers so that we can increase parking for the precinct, because the shops in the precinct need more parking to be viable, because people driving home, drive through the precinct, can't park, and they go to Marks and Spencer's, which is great for Marks and Spencer's but not great for our local shops. And one of the good things about St John's is our precinct and our shops there, so we've got to try and work with them to help them. So I don't think we need 57 cars in the meadow, but we need a solution which helps the school, helps the precinct and helps the parish in general.
Okay. You mentioned about people jumping in their cars to go to M&S there. That patch of road for me, I hate it. How will you go about, there's also a fair other few spots even just along this stretch of road. I know it's in the new Parish magazine, the sort of the plans for road safety improvements and that sort of thing. Can you talk us through those?
Yeah, so one thing I've learnt in the last 13 months, that working with government, things don't take days and weeks as they do in the commercial world. They take months and years really. So it's taken a full year to get the road safety boards together. That's not because we couldn't find volunteers within the parish. We had lots of people volunteer, but because IHE didn't have the resource. And what we're doing is, there's a 2-page article in the Parish magazine, but basically starting at the cemetery and going up to Marks and Spencer's along the main road, and starting at Melbourne House and going up to the old people's homes. We have people who drive from Maysall of Acorn to the shop because it's the safest way to go to the shop. And actually have to agree that it is the safest way to go to the shop. So we need to put crossings in place. We need a crossing outside here. We've been talking about a crossing outside the parish hall for over 20 years. We've just got to get it done. We're going to have a planning obligation. If we get the meadow passed, we'll have a planning obligation to put a crossing in. And if we get Maysall of Acorn Phase 3, we'll have a planning obligation to put a crossing in. So there'll be some design work done in the summer, and we'll be going to consultation in the autumn and asking parishioners for their views on what we should do within the parish to make it easier to walk and cycle around the parish. The issues aren't limited to the village, but that the focus is on the village to start with. If we can make it easier for people to walk to school, cycle to school, walk to the shops, hopefully we'll see an increase in pedestrian and cycle traffic and less cars.
Brings us quite nicely onto the climate group. What would you like to see there going forward? What work's been achieved so far, and where would you like to see it going?
Well, I think I do think we've got a climate emergency. Let's just put that out there straight away. Not everybody agrees with that, but I do think there is an emergency. St John's was the 6th parish to form a climate group, and we've got a great team of people. I'm not sure how many people have had their parish magazine this month, but there's a 12-page supplement in the parish magazine, which has been sponsored by 2 companies that operate in the parish, and the members of the climate group have written articles in there. We've gone for the view to see what can we achieve as a community rather than having big aspirations which we might not be able to deliver. The other thing I've done with the climate group is I asked a question about, well, what do the 5 other groups do together? The answer was nothing. So I mentioned earlier about trying to get the parishes to work more closely. So 2 delegates are able to attend a quarterly meeting of an island group. We've got 9 of the parishes working now, and I'm hopeful after the election we'll get all 12 together around the table. The first thing that we're working on is the Green Lane Network, trying to encourage those parishes that haven't got green lanes to come to the party, and then trying to work together with the parishes side by side to actually say, well, these 2 roads would link up better, and can we make that a green lane to make it easier for people to commute on bikes, etc. So there's a lot of work there. The great thing about that group, in my opinion, is the majority of the people that attend the meetings aren't politicians, so we're able to get things done, really, so that's quite good. You know, it really is good. So some people want, some of the constables want to attend the meetings as an addition, and I've said no, it's just 2 people. So I go with a member of our committee, some other constables go, but some parishes send 2 members of the community, and it's really good. We've got environmental specialists who attend, and we have people that are really keen, and it's a great mix. And it's another example of how our community has come together and working together to try and find solutions. And again, we're asking in the magazine, if people have got ideas, then get in touch with the parish hall and they'll get pushed through to the climate group. Yeah.
None of these ideas or projects that we've spoken about so far are going to be free, though. How are we going to fund that? Are we going to see our rates go up? Are we finding other revenue sources? Well,
I think the rates in St John's have been stable for many, many years, actually, and there's cost pressures on everybody, including some of our suppliers, and only this week we've had a meeting with one of our major expenditures, and that is going to increase, and we've got to look at ways of minimising the impact on parishioners. In terms of the climate group costs, the only cost really is the room that we use, the lights, etc. And hopefully, I think the climate group could actually create savings. I think some of the work around the crossings I mentioned earlier, if they are planning obligation agreements for developments, then they will have to be part of those costs. So we'll have to come back to the parish and say, this is what we want to do in the meadow, and it includes a road crossing, and the total price of the project is X. We do have a healthy balance sheet with significant reserves there, and I was very proud as a procurator to set up the reserve fund, which we didn't have previously to that. Subsequently, another reserve fund has been set up for roads resurfacing, which again is another great idea. And you may see some of the roads around the parish have got yellow paint on because we're waiting for tenders to do that work. But the parish is no different to any business, any home, in terms of the pressures or the costs. So, you know, the heating of this place is costing us more, just like it is your home. So we will look at ways to make it easier, to minimise the impact. You know, my background is in operations and commercial, and I was involved in a business that went from a £65 million turnover to £35 million, and was actually more profitable at £35 million than it was at £65 million. So I'm very familiar with how to make savings and efficiencies. So yeah, we've got a lot of work to do. You may have seen that we've started to do some work. So if you walk through the doors tonight, you see they're green rather than red. So we're trying to catch up on some of the maintenance that got held up because of COVID. So we've been doing some work. We've got a lot of expenditure at the church. The roof has been waiting to be repaired for many years, and we're like everybody else who's looking for a builder, we're waiting.
Okay, well, we'll open it up to the floor in just a second, but just finally from me, why do you think people should vote for you this election?
Because I really would like to carry on and demonstrate what I can do in 4 years rather than what I can do in 13 months. I think, as I said earlier, it's been a steep learning curve for me. I have made mistakes, there's no doubt about that, but I'm learning from them. I'm going to be totally committed to the role. I don't have any other paid roles. I currently am a trustee of Jersey Educational Trust, which is the body that owns St George's Prep School and La Hague Manor, and if I'm re-elected, I'll be resigning from that post, and I'll also be resigning from my posts at the Recreation Centre, where I'm both a trustee and a director, so my focus will be on the role. And you know, if you don't vote for me and you vote for Nota, then I'll probably leave the island, because I'm not sure I could carry on. Yeah. But yeah, you know, all I can do, I only make one promise, and that is that I'll work hard. You know, I've always said that I'll work hard and do my very, very best for people, and that's all I can promise.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we've been over half an hour now, blimey, sorry. We'll start off with some questions from the floor then. Martin, have you got your microphone? Or do you want... Oh, come and grab this one. Oh, there we are. It might need turning on just then. Yes. Just Clive, just there in the white shirt, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to ask a question. Hello, everyone. Clive Russell, St John's resident. I'm going to take us back to Zion and the field in Zion. I'm concerned because it's a already densely populated area with no amenities. And my question is, why shouldn't the soon-to-be metropolis of Zion seek independence? Because it feels remote, unwanted, and I think it needs more than a playground with a couple of swings in it to justify this. I'm a great supporter. You're confident and you're compassionate and you're also extremely effective. So I'd like an answer to that question. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I am conscious of how some people in Zion feel cut off from the main village and the parish. I have made a conscious effort since I've been elected to make sure that I communicate with the Zion residents, part of the Facebook group down there. I try to remember to post parish events on the Zion group. You'll have seen bunting the last 2 Liberation Days, which we probably haven't seen in Zion before. I know those are only small things, Clive, but you know, geographically we're not going to get any closer. So I mentioned earlier about utilising the URC building. You know, could we hold a parish assembly in the URC building? I honestly don't know if that is possible. I looked at whether we could have a polling station at Zion, because I think the island should have far more polling stations than it has. I can think of many places around the island. So the Glass Church at Millbrook, for example, the Good Companions Club at St Clement's. But when you look at Zion, yes, the URC is a facility, but if you look at, is it safe for people to be crossing the road there for 12 hours during a polling day? I really don't think it is. And, you know, maybe we need to consider well, hopefully we'll be able to vote online in the next elections. But, yeah, I'm keen to continue doing more with Zion, but I hope you know, I supported the changes in Zion. I'm a bit frustrated by the length of the 20-mile-an-hour zone. I think it goes on forever. But, you know, the St John element, I was more than happy to support. I'd like to see the bus stop, the lay-by at Zion closed and a bus shelter put in the lay-by and EV bike stand next to it. But yeah, we've got, you know, my proposer lives at Zion, one of my seconders lives at Zion, so I am familiar with the community there. You know, I don't think it is a metropolis per se, but you know, we need to listen and we need to try and do more. And you know, my door's always open. And if there are suggestions on what we can improve upon, I think if you talk to people at Sorrel, they may feel similar, or we talk to people at Hope Quoir, they may feel similar. So I don't think the challenge is just limited to Zion. I think one of the issues is that you don't drive past the precinct, but we've started to advertise events on the bus shelter, for example, you know, just as a way of trying to improve the communication as well as the electronic communication. So yeah, I'm happy to listen to ideas, and you know, I hope you don't go for independence, Clive, because I would oppose it.
Okay, who's next? A gentleman at the back, if that's okay.
Connétable, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to know what progress, if any, is happening with the bus routes. We've got areas like Sorrel, we've got areas around North Exchange to St John's here, but there's nothing that comes through inside the main route. Likewise, we've got nothing between Carford Saloon and St John's Church and going down the back of the manor, etc. So therefore, many of us who live in these areas have a good 20-minute walk to a bus stop if you require it, which is unacceptable if the people are having to carry like their shopping in bags for 20 minutes in all weathers. I'd like to know exactly what is going on. We've now got a crisis with fuel, etc., and people are now going to require more public transport. It's all well and good to say you have push bikes everywhere, that's fine. But we need footpaths otherwise, through the fields, so that people can get from A to B without the traffic on the roads. What are we doing about the bus routes?
Okay, so you may recall 13 months ago when I sent out a leaflet, I mentioned buses because I think we can do more with buses. Currently we've got 32 buses a day that leave from the church into town, and on a States day, other than a Wednesday, I generally catch the bus, the number 5, the 10 to 8, and I come back on the 10 to 6, which is, there's quite a lot of people on those buses. I really would like to see a bus going from east to west across the island, and I've worked out, my background is logistics, so I mentioned the Island Games before. In 2015 I could have told you the time of most buses around Jersey, which is quite sad. But we could get a number 1 bus, instead of going back into town from Goree, coming up through the northern parishes and going back as a 15, and a 15 going the other way. I'm hoping to get the other constables and the district deputies to help us to try and achieve that. In terms of the outer lying areas, we tried for the 2011 Committee Rural to do a park and ride from Le Fontaine. Now we had a lot of people said they were interested in doing that, and the reality was not many people took it up, so it didn't get used. We used to also have a parish link bus where we had volunteer drivers, and again it stopped because of the lack of usage. I think we can communicate those things better now with our social media groups, but I think Liberty Bus in general have done a very good job since they've been on the island. I think we could do more. You know, if you live in Bonwy, that's tough because there are far fewer buses going into Bonwy than coming to the church. But I'm fully aware, Phil, of the challenges from Carful, Salou to Sorrel and other areas within the parish and parishes. But we need to get people to show that they will use it, and it's like a chicken and egg. It's taken so long for the hopper bus in town to be introduced, and really there should be great potential for the hopper bus in town, and that should actually, if that gets used well, that could fund other routes in the more rural areas. So it is a question about funding. I was delighted to vote in the States to have the £20 for the under 18s to be able to get a bus throughout the year. I think if we can encourage youngsters to use buses at a young age, as I used to, then they become bus users for life. And you know, we need to do more, but it may be that we find an alternative to a bus to get people from these areas and bring them into the church so they can get on a bus that's already running. So the island has got so many minibuses that sit doing nothing for days on end. It's incredible. There's hundreds of minibuses that literally sit doing nothing, and there's lots of people who are able to drive them who could be encouraged to volunteer. So there is some work being done actually to utilise that resource, and perhaps we need to see if as a parish we can tap in. You know, do people want a bus on a Thursday, on a Monday, every day? We can't expect buses to be running around empty 7 days a week. So where is the demand, and how do we get that?
Can I come back in on there, Mr. Connétable? Can I come back in there? Because it's all well and good putting a bus on the route, like from Le Fontaine, etc., as a base, but you need more than one. Because if you've got 2 buses going out in the morning from 8 and 7:30 and 8:30, with only one coming back at 5, you've got no connection, because if, depending on what time you finish work, some people finish at 6:30. You need a continuation of several buses going into a particular location, not just one backwards a couple of times a day. You've got to have a proper route.
Yeah, Phil, we could talk about this after. There's plenty of capacity on the existing buses to get from the church into town, so we don't need additional buses running from the church into town. We need some form of transport to get people to the church so they can utilise the existing routes. And whether that's an existing minibus with a volunteer driver at several times a day, you know, but what is the demand? Is it cheaper to actually move people in a taxi than it is to put on a bus all day for 2 people? You know, that's the challenge we've really got.
Surely the route should go up to Sorrel in the first place. Instead of stopping at the church, stop at Sorrel.
I think we need to move on.
Yeah.
Otherwise we're going to just be stuck on that subject. And it is something that the two of you can talk about later, surely.
Yeah, more than happy to talk about it after. Yeah.
Thank you. You took the words out of my mouth. That's great. Yes, if we can move on, if we can come down. Sorry, Martin, I'm getting you to do laps here. The gentleman in the check shirt at the front.
Can I change the subject completely?
Absolutely.
So my name is Miguel Ray. I'm a resident of St John's, have been since '95, and this is a subject that touches all of us, and it's about the hospital, and it was talked about extensively by the deputies. And there was one comment by Gregory that really flummoxed me. I was trained as an economist and a financial analyst, and he talked about the hospital being free. I don't know if any of you heard that one. I was thinking to myself, hold on a second, he said it's going to cost 800 million, which I think is underestimated, given material price inflation. He said we've got 1.2 billion in the reserve in the bank. I'm not sure it's in the bank, it might be invested. So how's it going to be for free? You may not know the answer to that, but perhaps you could question Gregory. If you don't know the answer, perhaps post that on Facebook so we know the answer to it, because I was really flummoxed.
Well, as an economist, you probably agree with me that there's no such thing as free money. So exactly. I think I totally disagree with Gregory. I think it's totally wrong. And what he didn't tell you is that in order for that money in the reserve to pay the bond, we won't be able to touch that money for the whole period of time. So we're putting the island at risk. So I opposed the site at Overdale at the size. I was part of the hospital scrutiny panel. We put forward an amendment for a maximum of £550 million. Now that wasn't a number that a group of politicians picked out of a hat. We also worked with experts, firms like Curry and Brown, who are experienced in developing hospitals. I was given a briefing just after I got elected about the new hospital, and I asked the question, what would we get if we spent £200 million less? And the answer I got was, well, not what you want. I said, you haven't asked me. I said, but now you have. I don't want a world-class hospital. I want something that we can afford, that we can maintain, and that we can achieve. And I firmly believe, and I've written articles about this, I've spoken about this in the States, I firmly believe that a two-centre option, which hasn't been looked at for almost 10 years, would be cheaper, would be quicker, would be better for the environment, and importantly, would give the island some form of resilience. When I asked the question about resilience, I was told the corridors are going to be much wider, Andy. I'm not sure what a wide corridor does when a building doesn't have access to power or water, but that was the answer I was given. And when I challenged this a bit further, I was told by a UK consultant, well, we could bring in a hospital ship. I pointed out to him, our harbour is rather small. So I think, I agree with you also, it's not going to stop at £800 million. And I think, I worry about our future, our children's future and our grandchildren's future, because if we can't access our reserve fund on a rainy day, because it's tied up paying off a big debt, then the island's going to be in even greater debt. And we used to be proud about the fact that we had reserves, you know, that we were cash rich. And for colleagues of mine to say that the money is free, I totally disagree with them. I think it's shocking.
Okay, the gentleman third row back, if that's okay. Thank you.
Yeah, just supplements the hospital question, Andy. Actually used to work for Curry and Brown, so got a bit of experience on that before. How can the new government hold the hospital team to an account to make sure that money isn't wasted?
Well, we need to have, I think the question was asked on Monday night about politicians and civil servants, and you know, I've read the political oversight group minutes from the hospital, and I can tell you there has been very little, if any, challenge made by the political oversight group. It's embarrassing. And I pointed this out in the debate, and one of the members challenged me and said, well, Andy, we have challenged all the way. I said, did you agree the minutes? Of course we agreed the minutes. Well, I said, clearly you didn't read them because there's no record of you challenging anything. And, you know, I just don't understand. We've got consultants getting paid a massive amount of money. So I asked questions in Q1, at the end of Q1 last year, about one of the people who was on an interim contract. And I said, why isn't this person on a fixed term for the project? Isn't this a big risk? We're going to put him onto a substantive contract in Q2. Okay, I'll wait for the end of Q2. I ask my question again. Is the person on a substantive contract? No, but it's not going to cost us any more money. So I ask a question this year. How much are we going to spend in the last 4 months of this person's contract? The sum equated to £342,000 a year. That's what the sum equated to. And the reason for the increase was because those kind of people are in demand. What was I telling them 12 months before? You need to tie someone in. It's a risk to the project. And, you know, we really have to get people to challenge far more seriously. If you look at the business case for the hospital, those of you in commercial life wouldn't put that to a board. You certainly wouldn't have put that to an investment company to say, will you invest all of this money? You could drive a coach and horses through it. It was embarrassing. And unfortunately, more states members voted for it than against it. And, you know, I spoke earlier about collaboration. That's what we need to do more of in the States. And it really came down to personalities because, you know, some of the people that voted for the hospital were agreeing with us, but wouldn't vote with us, which just absolutely doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, so there's a whole range of areas in the States, not limited to the hospital, where we spend far too much money, and other areas where we don't invest enough, you know. But it really does concern me. And we need to put people in the jobs, the right people for the jobs, not because they've been in the States for longer than someone else, which is what happened 4 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, any more questions? A gentleman in the jacket, please. Thanks, Martin.
I'm happy to sit down if there's another question on the hospital.
Oh.
Okay. No, okay. So we'll move to infrastructure.
Brilliant.
Good evening, Connétable. It's Stephen St John. The question won't be a surprise to you, but it might be useful to other people. I know to my certain knowledge from my working life that whenever we get cuts, financial cuts, the first thing that goes is infrastructure spend. I'll give you two examples which will set the scene. We've had conversations about it. The first one is drains and water. We are living in third world conditions in this very rich and beautiful island, and that's unacceptable in the 2022. We need to do something about that, because clearly the programmes have moved way off to the right. The other one, and I don't know if Phil Rondell's here, but he'd be proud of me for asking this. There's a lot of publicity in sport about the effect of heading a ball on the brain and the health of the brain. Well, you can get the same effect driving in Jersey on some of our roads. So those are two examples of where spending on important infrastructure goes very quickly by the board, and I think these are areas where, to use your metaphor, the Connétable could put their shoulder to the wheel, because it is something that needs a combined effort. So what can you do as a committee to try and get these spends restored so that we can see improvement to our basic needs?
Yeah, a great question, and I was actually shocked 2 weeks ago to be knocking on somebody's door, and I asked the lady if she had any questions. She said, yes, when are we going to get on Mains Drains, Andy? And I looked at her and I said, surely you're on Mains Drains. No, she said. And this lady's property is on a main road between St John and St Mary, and I was absolutely shocked that she wasn't on Mains Drains. We had a fiscal stimulus funding during COVID. Not one penny was given to basic infrastructure in terms of drainage. I said that I'd made mistakes, and I'm learning. I will take an amendment to the next government plan if there isn't a sufficient increase in mains drains infrastructure being invested. As you say, I totally agree, it's 2022. It's costing some parishioners a lot of money to have regular collections from their property to take away things that we just pull the plug on the bath and off it goes. We don't have to worry about it. We've got to do more in terms of our basic infrastructure. I'm pleased to say that St John's is on the list for some major road resurfacing in the coming months. So in the autumn we're going to have a major project for resurfacing. I met with IHE people this week to discuss that. It will mean some disruption, but they're going to be doing 150 mil replacement of the road heading from here towards St Mary. So that's something that's coming down the tracks. I think it's a fool's economy if you don't invest in your infrastructure. You know, if we think about our house rather than the island, it's pointless having money in the bank if your roof has fallen off. You've got to keep maintaining your property, and the state has got a responsibility, just as the parish has got a responsibility to maintain its property, its roads, etc. So I think we need to do more. It's not just limited to drains. Water is also a challenge. I've also visited somebody, again, who I thought would be on mains water because of the proximity of their house to the centre of the parish. And again, I was shocked to be told that they weren't on mains water. So it's a combination of water and drains that we've got to do better. We need to get a programme in place and give people some kind of certainty as to when we're going to get there. And look at technology. What technology can we use? You know, Vote.je is a good example of where technology was used for the solution. What else can we do? As technology moves on, what else can we do? So we need to invest more, but also look at alternative solutions.
Okay, any more questions? Yes. Thank you.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, we met before. But my question is about, it's not so much a question. A number of ministers announced their departures from the government, their current posts. Do you have any ministerial aspirations, and if so, what would that be?
I don't. In 2012, I wrote to the Electoral Commission suggesting, I think I mentioned it earlier, that constables should not be ministers. And I said earlier that I'd been approached by quite a number of people to stand as a deputy, and I've been approached by civil servants to see if I'd be interested in certain ministries. My focus is going to be on the parish. I've answered a questionnaire for the JP, so here's an exclusive. The job I said I would like in the States is the chair of the Committee de Connétable. Now, I think that normally goes to the longest serving constable, but I'm up for a challenge, and I think the Committee de Connétable needs to up its game personally. So my focus is going to be here on St John's, in St John's, and representing you, the people from St John's, and that's a commitment I've made. I've nailed my colours to the mast as going for constable. I hope you will do me the honour of returning me as your constable, and hopefully we can work together. But I have no ambition for ministerial. If I wanted to be a minister, I would have stood as a deputy. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions from anybody? Oh, yes, sorry. Oh.
Hello, Andy. I used to cycle. I cycled in Europe, in the UK, and 3 or 4 years ago I bought a new bicycle, and I'm too frightened to get on it. The reason being is that here in St John we've got more traffic, And unfortunately, where Stephen and I live, there was a bad accident at the weekend on Sunday, a cyclist, and we knew it was going to happen. So when you referred to the pedestrianisation and things like that, are cyclists going to be along the line?
I learnt about that accident yesterday when I was canvassing, and I've forwarded that information because I understand it's about the 5th accident in the same area. And just for the rest of you, there's 2 downhill slopes that meet in the middle, and vehicles go along there very quickly, and it narrows and is dangerous. So I forwarded that on to IHE to bring to their attention as soon as it was brought to my attention. You may be surprised to learn that in a former life I was actually a cyclist. I was a different shape then, but I am still keen on cycling, although I don't do enough of it. The idea of starting in the village is to make it easier to get through the village and then to work our way out of the village. And the piece I mentioned earlier about the green lanes is also designed to make it easier and safer for people to do that. There was an alternative transport week on the 16th of May, and there were guided rides offered from the parish hall or from the church into town for those people that weren't confident to go in a small group. And I taught at the school, actually. I must have taught around 150 pupils their cycling proficiency over 5 years with a friend of mine at the back there. And now that's done by Jersey Sport rather than by volunteers. So we need to get more people on bikes. I understand that a dear friend of mine has had a serious accident recently, and it only makes me more determined to find solutions. You know, we have to learn to live together on the road, whether we're walking, cycling, riding a horse or driving a car. And I was canvassing in Montmeadow in the last couple of weeks, I can't remember when exactly, and I stepped out of a gate and I didn't believe I could move so fast in reverse, but I went backwards very quickly because the speed of traffic through Montmeadow is frightening, and we've got to do something in that area as well. We can't do everything at once, okay? So I can't sit here and make you promises that we're going to do A, B, C, D, E and F. We can't do it. What I can do is commit to you that I'm going to work hard with you, the community, and try and find solutions. And the Road Safety Group is a great example of how we can actually do that as a community. And I urge you to participate in the consultation. The consultation is going to be key.
Yes, back to the gentleman at the front, if that's all right. If we've got no other first questions, sorry, just... No, okay, sorry.
Different topic again. Gus and Morel, and I think some of the other deputies expressed their frustration about the ministerial system and their wish to go back to a community system in the States. How realistic is it that that could be reversed?
I don't think it should be reversed, and I'll tell you why. As a manager, I experienced life in the committee system as an employee, and I experienced a committee spending more time on the direction of Santa's sleigh over Gorey Castle for a stamp than they did on a business plan for the following year. What I do advocate is a board-style system, and I've said that in this hall before when we've had machinery of government reviews. I think we should utilise the strength of our community. So we've got some very talented people who aren't able to become politicians because they've got jobs which don't allow that. But they may be willing to give up some time in the equivalent role of as a non-executive director. And if you think about health, for example, we've got 3 people, they're all decent people, doing their very, very best. They're not HR professionals, they're not medical professionals, they're not professionals in building, etc., etc. And if we allowed non-elected, non-voting members onto a board-style body to advise those people, I think we could make a lot better decisions. The other thing I think is that ministers should not make a decision without their assistant ministers supporting that decision. I'm aware of ministerial decisions that get made And when you challenge the assistant minister, he or she is not aware of the ministerial decision. That's not teamwork, that's dictating. So I think I wouldn't advocate going back to the traditional committee system, but I would advocate a board-style move. And Guernsey do something similar to that, and it's okay if it happens in Guernsey and works in Guernsey, why not utilise that, you know? And we should do far more with Guernsey, you know? There's so many areas where we could do more with Guernsey, but it's based on trust, and we've got to trust each other and not say that Jersey's bigger than Guernsey, so we need more. You know, we should work with them. So yeah, I wouldn't advocate a committee system. Can we improve the current system? Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Oh yes, there we are. Thank you, Martin.
Julian Deegan, St John's, 20 years, so I'm still a newcomer. What's your position on party politics and its role in the island? Pretty new to us and pretty key in this election.
A great question. I am fiercely independent, but I've written about party politics because I've been interested in politics for many, many years. I think the parties that have been formed in recent months have formed far too late. And I think the fundamental flaw is they're coming from the top down. Party politics, in my belief, needs to come from the bottom up. I see the current party, with the exception of the established party, which has been there for 10 years or so, Reform, the other parties just appear to me to be vehicles to get somebody elected as a chief minister. And I think that's wrong. I think parties have got to come, the policies have got to come from the people. The membership needs to be strong, and then they need to produce their candidates and so on and so forth. So I think that all of the parties that have been formed for this election formed far too late, in my opinion. And I did a podcast with Bailiwick Express in January, and if you're interested in that, you can have a little play and I'll tell you a little bit more there.
Any more questions? Yeah, okay.
I'm not the best to speak, and I don't need a microphone. Okay. These new developments you're making, Zide and over the road here, is there any restrictions on when they're sold? How far have they got to keep these properties for before they can sell them again for profit?
Yeah, so really good question. So the idea is to have a shared equity model, which hasn't happened in the past, and we want to keep that equity in perpetuity. So the affordable home, if I say that we're going to retain 25%, the actual percentage is still to be decided. The person buying the property will buy 75% of the property, and when they come to sell, they'll be selling 75% of the property. The 25% will remain with the housing association, so another young family will be able to come along and have the opportunity to buy that property 75% of the price, so therefore hopefully keeping it in the affordable bracket. I think that's been done fairly well in Trinity. I think there are lessons to be learned around maintenance, etc. But I think we need to do better than that, than we have done in the past. And so retaining the equity in the properties I think is important. And the idea is that equity will be retained by the housing association, as I mentioned earlier, so it's kept separate from the parish finances.
Because everybody knows, and houses have gone up all the time. You know, I bought 40 odd years house off the parish. I've never sold it, but there has been development done. They've got in there 5-10 years of selling it, and they make 200 grand on it. That to me is morally wrong.
Yeah, and some people didn't actually move in. Yeah, so we need to do better. I think the island as a whole understands that, and the housing gateway, but we need better legal and financial minds than mine to come up with the wording for that. But we know what we're aiming for, and that is to retain in perpetuity a share of the equity in those new properties.
Yeah, because what happens, I've actually heard that some people are getting this 75% mortgage. They're actually financially well off because they're not going to declare all the money they've got and buy these houses?
Yeah, so the gateway is really tight to qualify for. If a couple earn more than £85,000 a year combined, they don't qualify for an affordable home. It really is tight, you know. And I think a two-bedroom property, the joint earnings is £75,000. So I mentioned we had 202 people on the list. Once we give that a great shakedown and the couples that haven't got children, they go. Then some couples will earn more than the £85,000 combined, they go. Some people unfortunately won't be able to afford the deposit, they go. So, you know, not everybody on that list unfortunately will be able to get an affordable property.
You know, don't get me wrong, I understand the prices of property and stuff, which I actually think is ridiculous where I live. I'm not selling my house, so it doesn't really bother me. But the problem is, there's a serious amount of people speculating this all the time, and we get to the stage, pieces, I've got, you're talking £1 million for a house here, so nobody's going to sell the house cheaper. You know, starting prices, 600,000, 800,000 for a first-time buyer. That's not real well.
Yeah, it's probably the island's biggest challenge, I think, at the moment. You know, it's so hard.
To that degree, but I think what's happened, Jersey, all the time, you have to have a certain amount of money. We understand that, but it's pure greed after this of people speculating all the time. And there's about times the states, the Jersey, stopped all this and said, right, this is it. We're not building houses and giving you them for nothing. If you keep giving people stuff for nothing, somebody's going to have to pay, and that's the taxpayer.
Yeah, I think one of the drivers of the inflation in the properties has been the increase in the buy-to-let properties, and we don't do enough for the island to get a return on those properties. So I think we need to look at how we tax those properties, and you know, we've got to do more on that. And we've also got to help the people that need the help. You know, we need to target that help. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, I didn't see it there. Thank you.
What's happening with the houses? You're saying that you've got to be married and have children, and it's tick, 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 tick. But isn't that penalising the single parent people who do not want to get married, who do not want children, and are equally can have a house if they wish to?
Well, I think, you know, I've had people in here in tears saying it's discriminatory. There are so many families with children that want to buy a property that I think it's right that we prioritise those families currently with a family. I hope at Zion that we can actually include a number of two-bedroom properties for those families. And let's not forget, some families can't have children. So we've got to try and find a solution. But there are so many young couples with young families who can't currently buy a house. I think the demand, you know, the priority has to go to those families with children. And, you know, some two-bedroom properties I would like to see at Zion to try and help some of the other couples. Yeah.
And there's just a gentleman at the back by the window.
Good evening, John Reynolds my name, grumpy old person. My question or my observation is I'm becoming increasingly concerned about the care in the community wool that has been pulled over our eyes. The care in the community was explained to us in this parish hall about a year ago. The people who were telling us all about it didn't seem to know the full details. They didn't know what was going to happen properly. They couldn't give definite figures. As a diabetic, I know from my own experience that several years ago I used to go to the diabetic clinic and have treatment, see specialists, all part of the health service. Now, as part of the outsourcing of health, it's costing me at least £200 a year to have the same sort of treatment. And it's going to cost us a lot more, because in the future, when we want heart consultations, whatever, we'll have to go privately to see people. What do you think of it?
Well, I think we probably haven't got enough time to talk about health tonight, John, but I share your concerns. And I looked into health in great detail last year because of an experience my family had. And care in the community was not available, so a close relative of mine was sent to a nursing home, put into isolation for 10 days, and not given any physiotherapy, and it was shocking. That's what got my interest in health. I fought really hard to reopen Samurai Ward. I didn't bring the proposal because of the closeness it was to my family, but I campaigned incredibly hard for that. Health has currently got 14.2% vacancy rate. That is health itself. That's not the care companies in the island. And if you see in the JP tonight, they say they've got 50 patients in hospital who are capable of going home, but there's nobody to look after them. If you look at the census results, people like me from the baby boomer years have got 10 years older since the last census. And hopefully we'll still be here in 10 years and another 10 years older, and it's going to put an enormous amount of pressure on us, both from a financial resource and a people resource. I think the Jersey care model was rushed. I think it was the former chief executive wanted something to hang his hat on, and it was rushed and not fully thought through. And I think the next government has got a massive job on its hands to resolve some of these challenges. You know, 14.2% vacancies, that's 345 people. 345 people just in health. So if there are 50 people who can't go home today from hospital, and let's say one person can look after, I don't know, 3 or 4 people, we can all do the maths how many more people are needed. And, you know, Brexit has been a big issue in terms of care staff. The cost of living in Jersey is a big issue for everyone, not just care staff. So we have got some serious challenges, and I think it's back to the point about the funding of the hospital. If we tie all our money up to pay off a massive loan that's not necessary, in my opinion, we are going to open ourselves up to potentially some serious problems. And I share your concerns, John. I've done a lot of work around health, and you know, I don't want to be a minister, but that's one area that needs a new vision. It needs values that the staff can buy into, and the management there have got to start listening to the staff, because I have had literally 24 people have come into my office at different times from a whole range of grades within health and told me some horror stories, and that goes from the most junior people in the hospital to some very senior people, and it's a real concern, not only of mine but of many people, and we've got to do something quickly, because the long-term care plan that we pay into is not going to be sufficient. It's not going to be sufficient.
Martin, can you come forward just a couple of rows if that's all right?
Connétable, St John's resident and boy. I think, quite honestly, the states have let down the young people of Jersey. I think there's 2 crises. We talk about the housing crisis, definitely. It is a population crisis. We've been promised that this was the #1 thing to be resolved at the last election, and that can has just been kicked down the road, the same as the housing crisis. And the 2 are interlinked, in my opinion. I think we've got a situation here, no pack drill, but recently a good friend told me about a person who came from outside Jersey, came over to Jersey for the day, with his lawyer, and purchased 5 properties, buy to let, because the money earned is so much higher than you can possibly get on bank account or investments elsewhere. And what we've done, we've basically we've let down the people of Jersey, because the situation is outside people can come in and buy these properties, earn fantastic returns on their capital, but also at the other end of the scale, we've got what used to be called the old 1-1Ks, who can come in and buy a £25 million beautiful house and all the rest of it. God knows how many virgins they've got. But with very clever accountants, I'm not knocking accountants here, because my son's one, but they pay next to no tax compared to the man in the street, because they don't pay tax on their worldwide income. They only pay tax on a certain level. And I think they need a fundamental review of the housing policy certainly, but certainly the what's happened to the economy, what's happened with regard to the population. Because unless we want to become the Hong Kong of the Channel Islands, and we build these great big monstrous apartment blocks, fine, keep them in town, because town's ruined anyway, but sound like a NIMBY there, but basically it's a case of, I think, this lot of politicians really need to say, right, we need to put the brakes on. Yep, we certainly need outside people, we need doctors, teachers, whatever, certainly, but I think we need to have a good root review of the tax people are paying and also those people who are coming in, basically using Jersey as a great place to invest your money, getting people off of rent and forcing our young people to leave the island. I wonder what your opinion on that is.
Well, you raise quite a number of points, and you know, the 11Ks, I think we need to increase the price of the property that they're able to buy. I think it hasn't gone up with the price of property. We need to be building properties that the community needs and not building lots more big properties. So I think if you go down Bonnwy and you see the apartments at Bonnwy, I think there's around 24 or 28 apartments there. That used to be one hotel. And we've got a similar bay at Bully Bay where they're talking about one family living in that area where it could actually accommodate 20, 24 families. And I think, you know, to me it's simple. You know, you create additional units of accommodation there. I mentioned earlier about the need to change the tax structure so that it's not so attractive to outside investments, because that has had an inflation impact. The population, we were waiting for the population policy, and we still are waiting for the population policy. I think the only thing it had was the word policy. I don't think there was much of a policy in there. I think we have to be cautious, and I say that in all seriousness. I worry about overpopulation, but equally I worry about depopulation. If we think about technology and AI, for example, that can take away a lot of jobs. And if you look at some of the major accountancy companies that used to take on 15, 20 graduates, they're taking on maybe 4 or 5 graduates. So it's not going to happen overnight, but we've got to be cautious. Obviously, technology can create jobs and create wealth, so we shouldn't be scared of technology. But I do think we need to be concerned about depopulation as much as overpopulation. I've already mentioned 345 vacancies in health. Well, if we can't find them locally, they're going to have to come to the island. I voted against South Hill being developed by the States Development Company because I suggested that site would have been a great site for essential workers. Why couldn't teachers, doctors, social workers enjoy the views from there? Perhaps if they were given a property there that they could afford, they may actually stay on the island longer than 12 months. And the families that are having the challenges of repeatedly having to tell their story to a social worker wouldn't have that, because somebody would be happy to settle in Jersey because they had a good property. So I think, you know, it's a massive challenge for us. You know, doing nothing is not an option, but we've got to be careful of the unintended consequences. We cannot close the doors. We cannot close the doors, and we can't open the doors wide open. We've got to be measured in what we do, and think about which levers we can pull and push. I mentioned earlier about the aging demographic. You know, we're going to have to start gaining more tax from companies in some shape or form, because we're going to have less individuals working, generating income to pay tax, and we're going to have more demands, as the point was raised earlier about the long-term care. You know, so the costs are only going one way. So we've got to find ways of creating that wealth, and yeah, I think, you know, we've got to try and diversify the economy. One thing we didn't mention earlier is I spent 3 years as chairman of Jersey Business, and the last year was in the first year of COVID. And, you know, they do some good work, helping businesses, all types of businesses, and, you know, they help new businesses, but they also help existing businesses try and improve their productivity. trying to make them better businesses and trying to help them with their marketing, etc. So we need to help businesses that are existing. You know, Jersey's got a good record of being innovative, and we've got to just make sure that we try and remove some of the red tape. One thing I tried to do and failed miserably at Jersey Business was to get the arm's length organisations to work more closely together. So if you want to go and see Digital Jersey, you go to Grenville Street. If you want to go to Jersey Business, you go to the Parade. If you want to go to Jersey Finance, you go to the Esplanade. Why can't they all be together? Why do they all need a HR department, an IT department, and a marketing department, so on and so forth? We could actually get our money working better for us by working more closely. And you know, it's we need to do more. We need to, and if we could get people collaborating more, there's some quick wins. You know, we've got literally dozens of arm's length organisations. You may be surprised to know that Jersey Rugby Club is an arm's length organisation of the states of Jersey, as a Super League triathlon. You know, there's a whole range of organisations, and we've got to get them singled down and trying to be far more efficient.
If we can come back over to the lady in green. Oh, okay.
We're not supposed to be talking about the hospital. I should have asked this question before.
That's all right, we can come back to it.
The thing is that something Andy's just said about the Overdale site. What would your preference be for the hospital to be built? Where would you put your two sites?
Well, I don't think we can afford to reopen the debate about the sites. You know, we've got to get on and build a hospital. I think the non-acute facilities should be at Overdale. No need to do the road. It's a big site, and we could actually put some accommodation for our key workers on that site as well. And I would keep the acute services in town. So if we built at Overdale and then decamped the Gwyneth Hewlin wing, for example, and started building our new acute service from Patriotic Street and coming back, I think that's achievable. As I said earlier, I think it would be quicker, cheaper, better for the environment and give us resilience. But I don't think we should be reopening the debate where we build. We've got two sites. Let's get on and do something.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any more for any more? Any subject? Go for it.
So,
yeah.
Second question. I'll get it.
Thank you.
The question of housing. Do you really think, I asked that question the other night with the deputies panel, do you really think that building few houses on few fields is going to solve the crisis, or is going to actually provide near enough housing? You know, 10 houses here, 10 there. There need to be developments of hundreds of flats, not houses. It's not doing anything. Houses are too expensive. They're expensive to maintain as well. So it's not the future. So I just don't understand this parish drive to keep parishioners in the parish. I understand with old people, you know, like Maison Lavelacon, that's fine. I understand why that is done within the village. But to build for first-time buyers, it's a nonsense, I'm afraid.
Well, I have to disagree with you. We've got families in this parish who want to be in this parish. We've got families that want to return to this parish. And I think we've all got to do so. There are going to be thousands of apartments getting built. Andiam are due to build 3,000 homes. SOJDC are due to build hundreds of homes. The Ports of Jersey have become a development company and going to be building hundreds of homes at the harbour at a time when we haven't got enough room for our freight operations at the harbour. So there will be apartments built, but people aspire to have a home and a house. And I think that if all of the parishes did something, then it would help. It's not going to be the solution for everybody, but I do think we have a part to play. And I do think we've also got people, Phil mentioned earlier about the buses and the lack of buses and transport in the outlying areas. We've got a number of our more senior members of our community who would like to come and live closer to the facilities. And we've got to try, it's always a balance. we're not going to please everybody. We've got to try and find solutions. And the Parish of St John has got a role to play in that. Hopefully it's a small role to play, but we do have a role to play. And we need people to come into the parish, to get involved in the municipality. We've got a fantastic school behind me that needs pupils, continually needs pupils, so we need families. At the moment we've got some St John's families who can't go to the school and go to town, and we've got children coming from town up to the school. You know, that to me is wrong. There may be good reason for some of those families, but I'm sure not for all. So yes, I believe that the parish has to do something, has to play its role, and I think that the bits that we are doing will go some way towards helping the problem, but it's not the total solution, absolutely not the total solution. But I do think we've got to try and maintain our community and enhance our community. Thank you.
Any more questions? Or are we happy with all of our answers? Oh, yes, the gentleman.
Mr. Constable, this might be rather a flippant question after all the serious ones we've had beforehand. Who on earth decided to change the status of this island from the states of Jersey to the government of Jersey? I guess possibly who did it, but I totally object to that.
I can think of much better things for us to spend our money on, Ron, but yeah, people are confused. What is the states, what is the government, etc. And, you know, I share your frustration, but I think we've got much bigger issues to sort out before we worry about a few logos here and there. I think we've got some real serious challenges coming forward. And if we're focusing on the branding of the government or the states, we're in a good place. We've got far more important things to worry about now. It's time for us to roll our sleeves up and get on. And you know, I share your frustrations. You know, IHE, Infrastructure, Housing, Environment, has had so many different names. I don't think they put signs on the doors now of the vans because they don't know what to call themselves this week, next week, or the week after.
Okay, any further questions at all? Or if not, shall we call it a night, I suppose? All right then, okay. Well, just a quick reminder then that Election Day is the 22nd of June. A few weeks to go yet. You can vote on the day in a polling station here in the Parish Hall. If you register for a postal vote, you should get your ballot if you've not had it already. I've already had mine and returned mine. You also got the option, if you're in town at all the week before, if you're not able to actually vote on voting day, you can go to the pre-poll voting at St Paul's Centre. That's from Monday the 13th until Friday the 17th of June. Just remember to take photo ID with you whenever you're voting in person. Yeah, thank you all again for all your questions. Brilliant variety there, absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much. And thank you to Martin for his expert wielding once again. Thank you, Andy, for your answers. Very, very comprehensive. I hope that everybody's sort of leaving with a better idea of what you would bring to the role should you be elected. Yeah, over to you.
Okay, we need to thank you, Katie. Katie is on the boat first thing in the morning and very kindly agreed to chair this evening, so thank you so much. I don't know if you all know, but Katie is a resident in the parish, so it's great that we've got somebody from St John's who's not only done this evening, but did Monday as well. So thank you, Katie. Thank you, Mark, for filming this, and it will be available online. And thank you all for coming, and I'm sure there are better things to do on a Thursday evening, but really appreciate you coming out this evening. I would encourage you to encourage your friends, your neighbours, your family, your colleagues to go out and vote. Doesn't matter which parish they live in. It's about time that Jersey and St John's got the turnouts back up on polling day. And I would really love to see St John's top of the polls. So I would urge you to come out on the 22nd. And if you've got any questions for me, my manifesto will be getting delivered in the next week. Please, my contact details are on there, but they're on the website. And if anyone wants to contact me, then please do. But thank you all for coming, and have a good evening. And I'm looking forward to a pint of Guinness. Thank you.